What's good, everyone? This is Monaro and welcome to my channel. This will be part 2 of our reread project. We'll be covering chapters 6 through 10, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Ned and Catelyn are in Catelyn's bedchamber after making love. Uncomfortable with the warmth of the room, which is heated by hot springs beneath the castle, Ned opens the window. As she watches him from the bed, Catelyn thinks he looks the same as when she married him and hopes they have conceived another child. The couple discuss King Robert's offer, which Ned intends to refuse. Catelyn insists that he must accept so as not to offend the king, which might put them all in danger. While Catelyn contemplates the omen of the direwolf killed by a stag, Ned wishes his brother Brandon had lived to be Lord of Winterfell instead. They are interrupted by a guardsman named Desmond, who says that Maester Luwin has an urgent message. The Maester is shown in and explains that a carved wooden box containing a fine new glass lens was left in his observatory while he was napping. The way it was delivered made the Maester wonder, and he discovered a message hidden beneath a false bottom. Maester Luwin says he has not read it, and will not give it to Ned because it is addressed to Catelyn. Catelyn takes the message apprehensively. It is from her sister Lysa, and written in a secret language only the two sisters share. Catelyn immediately burns the message after reading it, but explains to Ned that the message claims Jon Arryn was murdered by Queen Cersei and her family. Catelyn insists that now Ned must be the hand of the king to find the truth behind Lysa's accusation. Maester Luwin agrees with Catelyn, pointing out that the hand's authority will help determine the truth and protect Lysa and her son. Ned reminds them both that his father went south once at the summons of a king and never returned. Luwin replies that that was a different time and a different king. Catelyn insists that if Ned truly loves King Robert like a brother, he will not leave him to face the Lannisters on his own. Ned then makes his decision. He will go, but Catelyn must stay behind to govern Winterfell and teach his heir, Robb, how to be a proper lord. He allows that young Rickon may stay with her as well, but the others must come south, Sansa to wed Joffrey and Arya to learn the ways of a southern court. Catelyn reluctantly agrees, but begs that 7-year-old Bran be allowed to stay. Ned insists that Bran must bridge the gap between Robb and Joffrey. The house will be the safer for it, and Catelyn has to agree. Catelyn feels lonely already. Maester Luwin asks about Jon Snow, and Catelyn's anger flashes. She remembers the bastard child that Ned brought back with him in the early days of their marriage. She understood Ned fathering a bastard, but could not understand raising a bastard in the castle. There were rumors that Ashara Dane was the boy's mother, but Ned forbade Catelyn to ask about it, insisting that all she needed to know was that Jon was his blood. Ned would never send Jon away, though, and Catelyn never forgave him for that. Catelyn insists that Jon must leave Winterfell, but Ned argues that there will be no place for Jon at court. Maester Luwin mentioned Jon's ambition to join the Night's Watch. Ned considers this for a while and finally agrees to let Jon take the Black, though not until they are ready to leave for the south. He wants Jon to enjoy his last few days. Ned decides that when it is time, he will tell Jon himself. A reading from the chapter. Many men fathered bastards. Catelyn had grown up with that knowledge. It came as no surprise to her in the first year of their marriage to learn that Ned had fathered a child on some girl chance met on campaign. He had a man's needs, after all, and they had spent that year apart. Ned off at war in the south while she remained safe in her father's castle at Riverrun. Her thoughts were more of Robb, the infant at her breast, than of the husband she scarcely knew. He was welcome to whatever solace he might find between battles, and if his seed quickened, she expected he would see to the child's need. He did more than that. The Starks were not like other men. Ned brought his bastard home with him and called him son for all the North to see. When the wars were over at last, and Catelyn rode home to Winterfell, Jon and his wet nurse had already taken up residence. That cut deep. Ned would not speak of the mother, not so much as a word, but a castle has no secrets, and Catelyn heard her maids repeating tales they heard from the lips of her husband's soldiers. They whispered of Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning, deadliest of the 7 knights of Ares' Kingsguard, and how their young lord had slain him in single combat. They told how afterward Ned had carried Sir Arthur's sword back to the beautiful young sister who awaited him in a castle called Starfall on the shores of the summer sea. The Lady Ashara Dane, tall and fair, with haunting violet eyes. It had taken her a fortnight to marshal her courage, but finally in bed one night Catelyn had asked her husband the truth of it, asked him to his face. That was the only time in all her years that Ned had ever frightened her. "Never ask me about Jon," he said, cold as ice. "He is my blood. That is all you need to know. And now I will learn where you heard that name, my lady." She had pledged to obey. She told him, and from that day on, the whispering had stopped, and Ashara Dane's name was never heard in Winterfell again. Whoever Jon's mother had been, Ned must have loved her fiercely, for nothing Catelyn said would persuade him to send the boy away. It was the one thing she could never forgive him. She had come to love her husband with all her heart, but she had never found it in her to love Jon. She might have overlooked a dozen bastards for Ned's sake, so long as they were out of sight. Jon was never out of sight, and as he grew, he looked more like Ned than any of the true-born sons she bore him. Somehow that made it worse. "Jon must go," she said. "He and Robb are close," Ned said. "I had hoped—" "He cannot stay here," Catelyn said, cutting him off. "He is your son, not mine. I will not have him." It was hard, she knew, but no less the truth. Ned would do the boy no kindness by leaving him here at Winterfell. The look Ned gave her was anguish. You know I cannot take him south. There will be no place for him at court. A boy with a bastard's name. You know what they will say of him. He will be shunned." Catelyn armored her heart against the mute appeal in her husband's eyes. "They say your friend Robert has fathered a dozen bastards himself, and none of them has ever been seen at court," Ned blazed. "The Lannister woman has seen to that. How can you be so damnable cruel, Catelyn? He's only a boy. His fury was on him. He might have said more and worse, but Maester Luwin cut in. "Another solution presents itself," he said in his quiet voice. "Your brother Benjen came to me about Jon a few days ago. It seems the boy aspires to take the Black." Ned looked shocked. He asked to join the Night's Watch? Catelyn said nothing. Let Ned work it out in his own mind. Her voice would not be welcome now, yet gladly she would have kissed the maester just then. He was the perfect solution. Benjen was a sworn brother. Jon would be a son to him, the child he would never have, and in time the boy would take the earth as well. He would father no sons, or who might someday contest with Catelyn's own grandchildren for Winterfell. Maester Luwin said, "There is great honor in service on the wall, my lord." "And even a bastard may rise high in the Night's Watch," Ned reflected. Still his voice was troubled. "Jon is so young. If he asked us when he was a man grown, that would be one thing. But a boy of 14... "A hard sacrifice," Mr. Luwin agreed. "Yet these are hard times, my lord. His road is no crueler than yours or your lady's." Catelyn thought of the 3 children she must lose. It was not easy keeping silent then. Ned turned away from them to gaze out the window, his long face silent and thoughtful. Finally he sighed and turned back. "Very well," he said to Maester Luwin. "I suppose it is for the best. I will speak to Ben." "When shall we tell Jon?" the maester asked. "When I must. Preparation must be made. It will be a fortnight before we are ready to depart. I would sooner let Jon enjoy these last few days. Summer will end soon enough, and childhood as well. When the time comes, I will tell him myself." Arya is dismayed at her crooked stitches. She can't match her sister Sansa's needlework. Their governess, Septa Mordain, coos over Princess Myrcella's needlework, which Arya thinks is also crooked. Sansa is whispering with Jane Poole and Beth Cassell. When Arya asks what they're whispering about, she is told it is about how handsome Prince Joffrey is, and that he has complimented Sansa and is going to marry her. Arya points out that Jon Snow thinks Joffrey looks like a girl. Sansa laments that Jon gets jealous because he is a bastard, but Arya defends him, drawing the Septa's attention to her. Septa Mordain inspects Arya's stitches and pronounces her dissatisfaction. Humiliated, Arya bolts for the door, stopping only long enough to be forced to bow to Princess Myrcella. Arya wishes she had some of her sister's skill and beauty. She has her father's looks, not the beauty of their mother like Sansa. Jane used to call her Horseface, which was all the more hurtful because the only thing that Arya could do better than Sansa was ride. That and manage a household, since Sansa has no head for figures. Arya finds her direwolf pup Nymeria waiting for her, and together they go to watch the boys sparring in the practice yard, not daring to go back to her room where she would be found and punished. On the covered bridge overlooking the yard, Arya comes across Jon Snow seated on a sill with Ghost, watching the fighting below. She sits beside him and they watch together. In the yard below, heavily padded Bran and Prince Tommen are fighting each other with wooden swords, under the watchful eye of Sir Roderick Cassell, the Master-at-Arms. The group of spectators include Robb and Theon. Jon comments that the swords are a bit more exhausting than little work, but Arya responds that they are also more fun. Arya remembers thinking when she was little that she was a bastard like Jon because they were the only children to take after their father. When Arya asks why Jon is not down in the yard with the others, Jon explains that bastards are not allowed to damage princes. Only true-born swords can do that. Arya says she could fight as well as Bran, who is only 7, while she is 9, but Jon says she doesn't have enough strength for a longsword. Jon points out that the newly arrived Prince Joffrey is wearing a sigil that has both the stag and lion on it, giving his mother's Lannister sigil equality to the royal Baratheon sigil. Jon suggests that Arya should wear a combination sigil for the Starks and Tullys, but Arya jokes that a wolf with a trout in his mouth would look silly. She questions why a girl would need a sigil if she isn't allowed to fight. Jon shrugs that girls get the sigils but not the swords, while bastards get the swords but not the sigils. Below, Bran has knocked Tommen down and Sir Roderick calls Robb and Joffrey for a bout. Joffrey acts as if it is beneath his dignity to fight Starks with practice swords. He suggests real swords, and Robb readily accepts. Jon comments to Arya that Joffrey truly is a little shit. Sir Roderick states that he will only allow blunted tourney swords. Joffrey's scarred bodyguard, Sandor Clegane, remarks that he killed a man with a real sword when he was only 12. Joffrey makes a few more condescending remarks that enrage Robb, then feigns a yawn and leaves with Tommen. Jon encourages Arya to go to her room and face her punishment. Arya insists it is not fair, but Jon says that nothing is fair as he walks away with Ghost. Arya returns to her room to find not only Septa Mordain, but also her mother. A reading from the chapter. The Septa examined the fabric. Arya, 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 she said. This will not do. This will not do at all. Everyone was looking at her. It was too much. Sansa was too well bred to smile at her sister's disgrace, but Jane was smirking on her behalf. Even Princess Myrcella looked sorry for her. Arya felt tears filling her eyes. She pushed herself out of her chair and bolted for the door. Septa Mordain called after her, Arya, come back here. Don't you take another step. Your lady mother will hear of this, in front of our royal princess too. You'll shame us all. Arya stopped at the door and turned back, biting her lip. The tears were running down her cheeks now. She managed a stiff little bow to Myrcella. By your leave, my lady. Myrcella blinked at her and looked to her ladies for guidance. But if she was uncertain, Septa Mordain was not. Just where do you think you're going, Arya? The Septa demanded. Arya glared at her. I have to go shoe a horse, she said sweetly. taking a brief satisfaction in the shock on the Septa's face. Then she whirled and made her exit, running down the steps as fast as her feet could take her. It wasn't fair. Sansa had everything. Sansa was 2 years older. Maybe by the time Arya had been born, there had been nothing left. Often it felt that way. Sansa could sew and dance and sing. She wrote poetry. She knew how to dress. She played the high harp and the bells. Worse, she was beautiful. Sansa had gotten their mother's fine high cheekbones and the thick auburn hair of the Tullys. Arya took after their lord father. Her hair was a lusterless brown, and her face was long and solemn. Jane used to call her Arya Horseface, and nigh whenever she came near. It hurt that the one thing Arya could do better than her sister was ride a horse. Well, that and manage a household. Sansa had never had much of a head for figures. If she married Prince Joff, Arya hoped for his sake that he had a good steward. The majority of the men have gone hunting boar with the king, leaving Bran behind with Jon, Rickon, and the girls. Jon seems to be angry with everyone, even though he's going to the wall with Uncle Benjen, so Bran does not look very hard for him. At first, Bran was excited about leaving Winterfell and going to King's Landing on a real horse, not just a pony. He remembers the stories old Nan told about ghosts, terrible dungeons, and dragon skulls on the walls. He dreams of being a member of the Kingsguard someday and is anxious to meet the greatest living knight, Sir Barristan the Bold. But now Bran is also apprehensive about leaving the only home he has ever known. He will miss all those he is leaving behind, even his pony. Not able to stand the goodbyes, Bran goes to the Castle Godswood with his direwolf. Unlike all his siblings, he still hasn't named his wolf. None of the names he tries seems right. Eventually, Bran gets tired of trying to teach his wolf to fetch and decides to go climbing. His wolf doesn't want him to go and howls when he climbs away up a tree onto the armory roof. Bran spends much of his time climbing the roofs of Winterfell. His mother claims that he could climb before he could walk. Since Bran cannot remember learning to climb or learning to walk, he assumes it must be true. His mother is also terrified that one day he might fall and kill himself. Once Bran kept a promise not to climb for almost a fortnight and was miserable the entire time. Finally, he gave in, but confessed his crime the next day. When his father ordered him to the Godswood to cleanse himself, they found him sleeping in the tallest tree in the grove the next morning. His father, angry and laughing, told him that from now on he was free to climb so long as his mother didn't catch him. Others have tried to stop him, but to no avail. The guards tried to stop him, but they were too slow, and escaping from them was fun. Old Nan once told a story of a boy who climbed too high and was struck by lightning and had his eyes eaten out by crows. But Bran likes to feed the crows, and they never seem interested in eating his eyes. Maester Luwin made a clay boy and threw it off the wall as an example, but Bran only responded that he was not made of clay, and he never falls. Bran is climbing toward the broken tower where he likes to feed the crows when he is startled by voices from the first keep, the oldest part of the castle. At first he doesn't recognize them as Queen Cersei and her brother Sir Jaime. Cersei is telling Jaime that he should be the hand of the king and that Eddard Stark will put them in danger because the king loves him like a brother. Jaime jokes that Robert hates his brothers. Unamused, Cersei insists that Robert will listen to Eddard. Jaime states that he prefers honorable men to ambitious men like Robert's brothers and Littlefinger. Cersei says she is worried about what Lysa Arryn may have said to the Starks, but Jaime tells her not to worry as Lysa has no proof. Despite this, Cersei remains fearful that Eddard might betray her son Joffrey when he takes the throne to convince Robert to put her aside. Bran grows frightened by what he overhears, but wants to see who is talking, so he climbs over the window, then drops down. He can see the man and woman inside, naked and wrestling, fondling and moaning. He recognizes Cersei just as her eyes open and sees him. Bran loses his grip as he tries to escape, but he catches himself on the window ledge. Cersei and Jaime come to look at him. Jaime extends a hand to Bran and pulls him up onto the ledge. As Bran begins to relax, Jaime asks him how old he is. Bran tells him he is 7. Then Jaime loathingly says, "The things I do for love," and shoves Bran backwards out the window into the empty air. A reading from the chapter. The rooftops of Winterfell were Bran's second home. His mother often said that Bran could climb before he could walk. Bran could never remember when he first learned to walk, but he could not remember when he first started to climb either, so he supposed it must be true. To a boy, Winterfell was a gray stone labyrinth of walls and towers and courtyards and tunnels spreading out in all directions. In the older parts of the castle, the hall slanted up and down so that you couldn't even be sure what floor you were on. The place had grown over the centuries like some monstrous stone tree, Mr. Lewin once told him, and its branches were gnarled and thick and twisted, its roots sunk deep into the earth. When he got out from under it and scrambled up near the sky, Bran could see all of Winterfell in a glance. He liked the way it looked, spread out beneath him, only birds wheeling over his head while all the life of the castle went on below. Bran could perch for hours among the shapeless, rain-worn gargoyles that brooded over the first keep, watching it all. The men drilling with wood and steel in the yards, the cooks tending their vegetables in the glass gardens, restless dogs running back and forth in the kennels, the silence of the godswood, the girls gossiping beside the washing well. It made him feel like he was lord of the castle in a way even Robb would never know. It taught him Winterfell's secrets, too. The builders had not even leveled the earth. There were hills and valleys behind the walls of Winterfell. There was a covered bridge that went from the 4th floor on the bell tower across the 2nd floor of the rookery. Bran knew about that, and he knew you could get inside the inner wall by the south gate, climb 3 floors, and run all the way around Winterfell through a narrow tunnel in the stone, and then come out on ground level at the north gate with 100 feet of wall looming over you. Even Maester Luwin didn't know that, Bran was convinced. His mother was terrified that one day Bran would slip off a wall and kill himself. He told her that he wouldn't, but she would never believe him. Once, she made him promise that he would stay on the ground. He had managed to keep that promise for almost a fortnight, miserable every day until one night he had gone out the window of his bedroom when his brothers were fast asleep. He confessed his crime the next day in a fit of guilt. Lord Eddard ordered him to the godswood to cleanse himself. Guards were posted to see that Bran remained there alone all night to reflect on his disobedience. The next morning, Bran was nowhere to be seen. They finally found him fast asleep in the upper branches of the tallest sentinel in the grove. As angry as he was, his father could not help but laugh. "You are not my son," he told Bran when they fetched him down. "You're a squirrel. So be it. If you must climb, then climb. But try not to let your mother see you." Bran did his best, although he did not think he ever really fooled her. Since his father would not forbid it, she turned to others. Old Nan told him a story about a bad little boy who climbed too high and was struck down by lightning, and how afterwards the crows came to peck out his eyes. Bran was not impressed. There were crows' nests atop the broken tower where no one ever went but him, and sometimes he filled his pockets with corn before he climbed up there, and the crows ate it right out of his hand. None of them had ever shown the slightest bit of interest in pecking out his eyes. Later, Maester Luwin built a little pottery boy and dressed him in Bran's clothes and flung him off the wall into the yard below to demonstrate what would happen to Bran if he fell. That had been fun, but afterward, Bran just looked at the Maester and said, "I'm not made of clay, and anyhow, I never fall." Tyrion has been reading all night in Winterfell's library when he hears a wolf howl. He gives up on reading, noticing that it's near dawn and that Septon Chael is asleep. Tyrion wakes him and goes out to break his fast. As he leaves, Tyrion hears Sandor Clegane complaining about how long Bran Stark is taking to die. Prince Joffrey states that at least Bran is dying quietly, but the wolf's howling is disturbing his sleep. The Hound offers to go kill it, which Joffrey finds amusing, believing the Starks would not notice it missing. Tyrion notes that the Starks can count past 6, unlike some princes. The Hound uses the remark as an excuse to make fun of Tyrion's height. Tyrion brushes the comment off before advising Joffrey to pay a visit to the Starks to offer his sympathies. When Joffrey asks what good it would do, Tyrion tells him that his absence has been noticed. Joffrey continues to refuse, but Tyrion proceeds to browbeat him to the edge of tears until the boy acquiesces. The Hound, looming over Tyrion, warns him that the prince will remember how his uncle slapped him. Tyrion responds that he hopes he does and that the Hound should be a good dog and remind Joffrey if he forgets. Tyrion then seeks out his brother and sister, who are having breakfast in the morning room of the guest house. He asks if Robert is still in bed, and Cersei disdainfully explains that Robert has been up all night with Lord Eddard and has taken the Stark's sorrow deeply to heart. When Jaime adds that Robert has a big heart, Tyrion remembers that during his childhood, Jaime was the only person who ever showed him any affection or respect. In return, Tyrion is willing to forgive Jaime almost anything. As Tyrion orders breakfast, Prince Tommen asks after Bran and says that he doesn't want him to die. Jaime comments on the name Brandon being unlucky, but Tyrion states that this may not be the case, explaining that Maester Luwin thinks that Bran may recover. As he speaks, Tyrion catches the significant glance between Jaime and Cersei. Cersei immediately insists it is no mercy for Bran to live. When Myrcella asks if Bran will be all right, Tyrion replies that Bran will never walk again. Tyrion goes on to say that the wolf howling outside his window may be contributing to Bran's survival. When the window is closed, Bran gets weaker, but his heart strengthens again when it is open. Cersei responds that the wolves disturb her and are dangerous, but Jaime tells her the girls' wolves will doubtless follow them to King's Landing. Tyrion then reveals to his family that he intends to visit the Wall before returning south. Jaime jokes that he hopes Tyrion is not planning to take the Black, but Tyrion quips back that if he did, the whores would go begging. Cersei leaves abruptly with her children, insisting that they shouldn't hear such filth, while Jaime wonders if Eddard will leave Winterfell with Bran so ill. Tyrion insists that King Robert will make the choice for Eddard. Jaime declares that if he were Eddard, he would end Bran's torment and save him from being a cripple. Tyrion himself, less than able-bodied, advises Jaime not to say as much to Eddard before wondering out loud what tale Bran might tell if he wakes up. Jaime is not amused and wonders aloud about Tyrion's loyalty. Tyrion replies that Jaime knows how much he loves his family. A reading from the chapter. Jaime regarded his brother thoughtfully with those cool green eyes. Stark will never consent to leave Winterfell with his son lingering in the shadow of death. He will if Robert commands it, Tyrion said, and Robert will command it. There is nothing Lord Eddard can do for the boy in any case. He could end his torment, Jaime said. I would if it were my son. It would be a mercy. I advise against putting that suggestion to Lord Eddard, sweet brother, Tyrion said. He would not take it kindly. Even if the boy does live, he will be a cripple, worse than a cripple, a grotesque. Give me a good, clean death. Tyrion replied with a shrug that accentuated the twist of his shoulders. Speaking for the grotesque, he said, I beg to differ. Death is so terribly final, while life is full of possibilities. Jaime smiled. You are a perverse little imp, aren't you? Oh, yes, Tyrion admitted. I hope the boy does wake. I would be most interested to hear what he might have to say. His brother's smile curdled like sour milk. Tyrion, my sweet brother, he said darkly, there are times when you give me cause to wonder whose side you're on. Tyrion's mouth was full of bread and fish. He took a swallow of strong black beer to wash it all down and grinned up wolfishly at Jaime. Why, Jaime, my sweet brother, he said, you wound me. You know how much I love my family. Jon climbs the stairs to Bran's room with Ghost beside him, fearing that it might be the last time. Catelyn is there, having never left Bran's side for close to a fortnight, which has kept Jon away, but now there is no more time. When Jon enters, Catelyn responds with hostility, asking why he is here and demanding he leave. While once this would have sent him crying, now it only makes Jon angry, so that when Catelyn threatens to call the guards, he calls her bluff. Jon finds Bran emaciated and shrunken, and the covers over his legs look wrong. Jon asks Bran not to die and tells him everyone is waiting for him to wake up. Jon remembers how much Bran was looking forward to the journey south, while explaining that he is going north to the Wall with Uncle Benjen. Catelyn admits that she was wishing for Bran to stay home with her, and her wish seems to have been granted. When Jon attempts to reassure her, she lashes out at him. As he is leaving, tells him that it should have been him that fell. Jon makes the long walk back to the yard, where things are in an uproar as the party prepares to leave. Robb brings news that Benjen is looking for Jon. When Robb asks about his mother, Jon tells him she was kind. Robb then remarks that next time they meet, Jon will be all in black, and they hug farewell. Next, Jon goes to see Arya, who is repacking her things with the help of Nymeria, not having folded them well enough for Septim Ordained the first time. Jon says he has a secret present for her. After Arya closes the door and sets Nymeria to guard it, Jon gives her a small sword made specially for her, one like the swords from Braavos. He explains to her that she will have to practice every day, shows her how to hold it, and then gives her her first lesson. Stick them with the pointy end. He then warns her not to tell Sansa. Arya runs to him for a last hug. Just before he leaves, Jon tells Arya that all the best swords have a name. When she asks what her sword's name is, he explains that it is her favorite thing. Then they say the name together. Needle. A reading from the chapter. I have something for you to take with you, and it has to be packed very carefully. Her face lit up. A present? You could call it that. Close the door. Wary but excited, Arya checked the hall. Nymeria, here. Guard. She left the wolf out there to warn of intruders and closed the door. By then, Jon had pulled off the rags he'd wrapped it in and held it out to her. Arya's eyes went wide, dark eyes like his. A sword, she said in a small hushed breath. The scabbard was soft gray leather, supple as sin. Jon drew out the blade slowly, so she could see the deep blue sheen of the steel. This is no toy, he told her. Be careful you don't cut yourself. The edges are sharp enough to shave with. Girls don't shave, Arya said. Maybe they should. Have you ever seen the Septa's legs? She giggled at him. It's so skinny. So are you, Jon told her. I had Mikken make this special. The Braavos use swords like this in Pentos and Myr and the other free cities. It won't hack a man's head off, but it can poke him full of holes if you're fast enough. I can be fast, Arya said. You'll have to work at it every day. He put the sword in her hand, showed her how to hold it, and stepped back. How does it feel? Do you like the balance? I think so, Arya said. First lesson, Jon said. Stick them with the pointy end. Arya gave him a whap on the arm with the flat of her blade. The blow stung, but Jon found himself grinning like an idiot. I know which end to use, Arya said. A doubtful look crossed her face. Septa Mordain will take it away from me. Not if she doesn't know you have it, Jon said. Who will I practice with? You'll find someone, Jon promised her. King's Landing is a true city, 1,000 times the size of Winterfell. Until you find a partner, watch how they fight in the yard, run and hide, make yourself strong, and whatever you do, Arya knew what was coming next. They said it together. Don't tell Sansa. Jon messed up her hair. I will miss you, little sister. Suddenly, she looked like she was going to cry. I wish you were coming with us. Different roads sometimes lead to the same castle. Who knows? He was feeling better now. He was not going to let himself be sad. I better go. I'll spend my first year on the wall emptying chamber pots if I keep Uncle Ben waiting any longer. Arya ran to him for a last hug. Put down the sword first, Jon warned her, laughing. She set it aside almost shyly and showered him with kisses. When he turned back at the door, she was holding it again, trying it for balance. I almost forgot, he told her. All the best swords have names. Like ice, she said. She looked at the blade in her hand. Does this have a name? Oh, tell me. Can't you guess? Jon teased. Your very favorite thing. Arya seemed puzzled at first. Then it came to her. She was that quick. They said it together. Needle. The memory of her laughter warmed him on the long ride north. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. I will be doing a Q&A at the end of the month for the entire book, so please leave your questions down below so that I can compile them if you want them answered. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to come back for more. Thanks again. Bye.